Hey everyone, welcome back to the Baker's Almanac. Today's video is actually going to be all about my experience as I get my first job in the pastry world, so in the culinary industry. It's actually going to be a two-part series, and so the first video I'm going to talk about all about how I found the different jobs available and applied for them. And then the second part is actually going to be about my experience trailing. So when you go in and you basically do an interview and spend some time in the kitchen to see if you can get offered a job. So let's get started. So first things first, what I had to do is I had to find all of the different pastry jobs that are available. So I personally live in New York City, so I was looking for jobs in mostly Manhattan. And of course, the way that I found the jobs is going to be specific to where I live, but I'm sure that there are lots of different pastry jobs available across the world. Everyone likes to eat. And you can apply some of these different techniques to your own search as well. So the number one place that I went to actually find jobs was the website Culinary Agents. This is an amazing resource and is actually what helped me get the job that I got. And so if you go on Culinary Agents, it's totally free to use. This is totally not sponsored. That would be amazing if it was, but it is not. So you just go on there, and what I did was I searched pastry cook in the description, and it populated a whole bunch of different jobs that were available throughout Manhattan. And so I clicked into a couple of them, saw which ones might be a good fit, and then I made an account on Culinary Agents and then uploaded my resume as well as my cover letter. And so I did a pretty generic cover letter that applied for all the different jobs just so I could save some time when applying. So after I found those couple of jobs I was interested in, I just opened them up and then applied within Culinary Agents itself, and then just sat around waiting for a response. A couple tips that I do have when it comes to your resumes and cover letters for pastry jobs is just to be very kind of short and concise to the point. Something that the career counselor at the International Culinary Center where I graduated recommended was you don't really want to have a flashy resume or lots of colors. Just keep it, very short and white, and just list perhaps any culinary degree that you have, any work experience. Personally, I'm coming from a career change, so I didn't have any relevant industry experience, but I still did keep my previous jobs as well as my university degree. In terms of the cover letter then, what I did was I just wrote a couple of paragraphs describing my experience at pastry school, why I was so passionate about pastry, and then what I was looking for with a job. And that's pretty much all I needed. So in total, I actually ended up applying to about 30 jobs or so, which was probably more than I actually needed, let's be fair. Because after I posted my first applications, I kind of sat around for a couple of days thinking I wasn't going to hear back from anyone. I started getting really stressed about it, to be honest. But finally, after a few days, I got my first response, and it was kind of just like a tidal wave after that. Everyone started reaching out, and I got a bit overwhelmed by it all. So also another note is that I was mostly applying for jobs at restaurants in New York City. I did apply for a couple bakeries just to compare, but I was mostly in search of a restaurant job. When I started getting emails back, it was usually from the pastry chef herself or himself, and they asked me to come in for a trail. And so if you're not familiar with what a trail is, it's usually an unpaid shift that you do in a restaurant or a bakery, where you basically just perform some tasks for the chef so they can see your work ethic, how clean you are, and so forth. And so I usually got asked to go in for these trails. Sometimes a restaurant or a chef asked me to come in for an interview by itself, but it was usually going to be a trail. So I ended up scheduling multiple trails, and I kind of tried to stack them all for 1 week so that I could get them done as fast as possible. I'll let you know how that went for me in the next video. But I really did want to be prepared for these trails. To make sure I was as ready as possible for these trails, I reviewed over my notes from pastry school just to refresh my memory, and then I also did some research into the restaurants themselves. I went onto their websites, I looked at the menus, got a feel for the kind of cuisine they had, how high scale was the restaurant, is it fine dining, is it more casual, and so forth, just to make sure that I had a feel for everything so I wasn't going in totally unprepared. I'll let you know how I would recommend prepping for those trails in the next video because my opinion has changed a little bit after going through them. But yeah, so I ended up responding to a lot of those emails and I scheduled the trails, and that is just basically where I went from there as I did the trails. Also, to be completely honest, I was terrified going into these pastry trails because there's not a lot of resources out there. I did so many searches on Google, how to prep for pastry trail, what to do, what to expect, what it's gonna be like, and first off, there wasn't that much material out there. And then secondly, what was out there was usually for savory or for culinary positions. And so I didn't really know what to expect. And so I really hope that this video and the next video will help anyone out there who's looking for a pastry job, just to kind of clear the air a little bit and explain what it's actually like. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. That's my experience and how I found jobs. Like I mentioned, this specifically applies to my situation looking for jobs in New York City, but there are always going to be pastry jobs available across the world. So no matter where you live, hopefully you can find jobs in a similar way that I did. And then just make sure that you follow up, you respond promptly to any emails that you get, and then take your best foot forward from there. Stay tuned for the next video in this series where I'll talk about all my experiences at my trails, how they went, what tips I would have, and then describe how I actually ended up getting my job. As always, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to like it and subscribe so you stay tuned for all of my future videos, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!